For Palestinians and Israelis caught in the middle, it is a terrifying experience. Just going out in the street can be a dangerous experience. About 2 hours ago, we were able to reach Mohammed Suleiman, a Palestinian living in Gaza who works for a local human rights NGO. And Nisim נחום is an Israeli living in Ashkelon. He's a father of 5 and the CEO of a local council. If you could drive directly between where the two live, it would only take you about 15 minutes. And while they share some common fears, they disagree on who's to blame for the current situation. I started by asking Mohammed to describe the situation where he is in Gaza.
The situation is actually very dangerous out in the streets. For the first time since I returned to live in Gaza 2 months ago, I feel that my life is at risk by merely being out in the streets. So yesterday, when the escalation started from the far south to the far north, with the border, at the border with Israel.
Nisim, I know you're listening to those descriptions there by Mohammed. Tell me about the situation in Ashkelon and what you guys are experiencing.
In Ashkelon, we're experiencing pretty much the same situation as in Gaza, I guess, but with one great and meaningful difference. In Ashkelon, we know that the missiles from the Gaza Strip are intended to hurt as many civilians as possible. My friend from Gaza said that he's feared for his life. Well, I must tell you, I fear for my life. I fear for the life of my 5 little kids. I fear for the life of my wife, who stayed with those little kids at home. The older one is 10 years old. The youngest one is 1 year old. And they had to run all day long to the safe room to go in and go out. I fear for the life of my parents, who are 80 years old, who have no shelter and no safe room in their home, and their neighborhood is bombed and targeted by the Palestinian extremists.
Mohammed, when you hear Nisim say that, when you hear him describe the situation where he is, what goes through your mind?
Sorry. Well, that is one thing. Sorry, carry on with your question. I'm not going to say anything. You can hear all things. Yeah? You can hear everything. Yeah, you can hear everything. I'm not going to comment on anything that is going on outside. I just took
Mohammed, what was
my
that?
headphones so that you can hear everything.
Mohammed, what was that noise we just heard?
Sorry?
What was that noise we just heard? Was that coming from outside?
These are Israeli war planes bombing the Gaza Strip. Look, listen, let's just carry on our conversation. We need to have a talk.
We're back live now. You heard that last boom that interrupted our conversation there. We want you to know that Mohammed is okay. A few hours ago, we spoke with Mohammed Suleiman, a Palestinian living in Gaza who works for a local human rights NGO. And Nisim נחום is an Israeli living in Ashkelon. He's a father of 5 and the CEO of a local council. You were just in a conversation with someone there in Gaza, and we just lost the connection because effectively his surrounding area was being targeted by Israel. Can you understand just how afraid people in Gaza are right now?
Let me tell you, well, first, we don't know for sure that his house or his facilities were targeted by Israel.
We know that his area, I think, let's just speak generally, say we know that his area, obviously...
Okay. I can tell you that by 8 o'clock this evening, I had to visit 3 times the shelter in my home, only by 8 to 8:15. So the hostilities and the bombing is constantly also here in Israel, and it's never stopping. But I can tell you that I do know that we pray and hope here in Israel for the day. And I do have a dream that one day the gate of Erez checkpoint will be open again, and we can visit our friends, the Palestinian friends from the Gaza Strip. You know, it is only 15 minutes drive from my home to Muhammad's home.
Well, Nisim, stand by directly to your political leaders. Nisim, let me stay with you. What would you say to them in terms of bringing this present hostilities to an end?
I would like to say to Ahmad first, before I'll talk to my leaders, to my political leaders. I would like to say to Ahmad...
It's Mohammed.
To Muhammad, I'm sorry. to Muhammad that we can talk between ourselves. The people can talk between ourselves. I have an Arab friends, and I know that we can make things right between those two nations. But first, we must throw away all the extremists. I'm telling Muhammad that only when we throw away the extremists, we can then live together side by side, and he can visit me and I can visit him freely and peacefully. Only
Mohammed,
small
what would you say?
extremists are doing all this harm to those two nations. Make sure that they will stop and peace will come to this region for the next 40 years, hopefully.
All right. Mohammed, your chance, what would you say in response to that? And what would you say to your leaders there in Gaza in an attempt to bring this conflict to an end?
Well, what I would say to my political leaders in Gaza is the following. Now, we should do our best to refrain from harming any civilians. We should do.
My conversation there with Mohammed Sulaiman, who works for a local human rights NGO in Gaza, and also Nisim נחום, CEO of a local council in Ashkelon, Israel. Two people living just 15 minutes apart, but under the circumstances, living a world away. Our thanks to both of them for joining us for that conversation, and our sincere wishes that they and their families remain safe. You're watching CNN News Center. I'm Aisha Sasay. Thank you for joining me right here on CNN.